to my channel. Today's video may be in Chinese because, as you can see from the title, I'm going to share how it's like and what you will be studying if you were to take Chinese medicine in Singapore. And let's jump right into it. Okay, if you keep seeing me looking down, it's because I have made notes and I want this video to be as well covered as possible. So yeah, I'm going to be looking down and just telling you what I've been studying. I'm currently in year 3 of my course, and the total number of years is 5 years, and now we are 3 out of 5, so we are around halfway there. And I've taken quite a bit of modules throughout the years, and also clinical practices, and as well as practical stuff. So I'm gonna just briefly bring you through them. Yeah. So first and foremost, there are about 36 modules that you have to take, because we take both Chinese medicine modules and Western medicine modules. So it's a mix of both of them, but our mains will still be the Chinese one, as well as it will be the huge bulk of what we will be tested for our school graduation exam, as well as our board exams to get our license to actually practice Chinese medicine, being a physician here over in Singapore. Firstly, it will be 中医基础理论, which is the theories and the basics of what is essentially Chinese medicine, and it will lead you into how and why the herbs work together, why we choose certain acupuncture points and things like that. It's the really the basic of Chinese medicine, which is the theories, for example, the yin and yang, just really a solid theory of Chinese medicine. The next one will be 诊断学. 中医诊断学 is basically clinical diagnosis, which is how we spot different symptoms and group them together to form a certain diagnosis, a certain syndrome. So how we call it 症型. Next will be 中药学, which, as the name says, 中药 is Chinese herbs, so we'll be learning about the different types of Chinese herbs, and there are a lot of types, of course, but you just have to memorize them. And we learn, by the way, almost all, maybe about 90% of our modules, including the Western medicine modules, in Chinese. So if you were to join this course, you gotta really back up on your Chinese, and that's what I had to do. After that will be 方剂学. 方剂学 is how we group the certain herbs together and to use them for certain symptoms and syndromes. So it's the grouping of the individual herbs. And then next one will be the different 内经、伤寒论、金匮要略, the 4大经典 of 中医, which is the 4 classics that we have to study. And of course now we don't really read old ancient Chinese books, but that's why we have our bring on further later on. That's why we have 医古文 and 医学史, which is learning the medical history, Chinese medicine history, which will allow us to better understand the classics, and it is really helpful. I believe it will help us in the future. Next will be 中医内科学. 内科学 is internal medicine, which is how we use our how we use our herbs to really treat different symptoms and different diseases in the Chinese medicine. So as you can see, it's all in Chinese. So this was what I didn't expect when I was joining. I thought there would be a good mix of the English and Chinese languages, but yeah, mainly it's in Chinese. So for the 4 classics, actually there's a funny story. Before I joined Chinese medicine, I actually went to the library to borrow books to see if I really wanted to do Chinese medicine. So the main books that I borrowed were 内经, all the 4 classics, because I didn't know that there are other interesting topics that would help us, like what I've mentioned earlier. Yes. So going further, we have 中医外科学, which is for example skin diseases, skin stuff. So what you can see on the external basically. So we have 中医儿科学, which is pediatrics in Chinese medicine, and there's a good mix of Chinese and Western medicine, because of course when the patient comes over you have to know what their diagnosis is from the GP clinics or from the hospitals, or from their symptoms, for example eczema, psoriasis, or maybe intestinal issues, digestion, stuff like that. So yeah, next will be 妇科学, which is gynecology, female stuff. Of course we focus on 经带胎产, which is, how do I translate it? It's like our menstruation, our period, which is very very focused on, and then we have like pregnancy and childbirth and things like that. So yeah, and we also learned Western medicine stuff in it, of course. So next we have 骨伤科, which is things to do with the bones, for example sprains, fractures, things like that. Next will be 眼科, which is eyes. Yeah, and then 鼻咽喉科, ear nose throat, as obvious as it sounds. Yep. And then 老年病学, which is the study of like diseases in the elderly, which is something I'm actually really interested in, and I would like to like progress further in it, because there's so many people that I know are like elderly, that are old, and I just hope that my knowledge or something that I can do could help them ease their discomforts. So next we have 针灸学, which is something I really like, and I always practice on myself before I actually practice on my patients, because you need to know how it feels like when you acupuncture on different points on your body and the functions, and we actually have to memorize the points, of course you have to know, and the functions and how they are used when they are when different points are used together. So of course it is in Chinese also, and then we make notes, but normally our lessons we are taught in lecture notes. We are taught using lecture notes that we are given by the school, and we just bind them together, and it really helps because our lecturers really put the more important stuff, the concise stuff, because if you really like look at the textbook, there's a lot of information inside. So it really helps, because when you're doing medicine there's simply too much things for you to remember, and our brain is only so for a certain period of time we can only host that much information. So all this really help. Next we have 推拿学, which is like 推拿 massage therapy, which is really good at blood circulation and things like that. Then next we have 医古文医学史, which is the history, the 历史 of Chinese medicine, and how it was used and how it was understood and practiced in the past. Next we have 各家学说, which is like it's like another study of classics. And then we have 病案学, which is how we will look at different cases, different patient cases and patient histories, and then analyze them. Next we have 文献学. To be honest, I have no idea what that is, but it looks like it's what's that called? It looks like it's a study of text, because in Chinese 文献 means text. And then we are going soon into the Western part of medicine. So next we have, sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. Next we have 养生康复学, which is a part of the elective modules that we have to take to really like complete our hours. And then we have 营养食疗学, which is what most people would say, for example, you would say eating chips, things like that will be heaty for you. You'll get ulcers and things like that. That is yeah, but we learn more in depth, more on like herbs and yeah, it's more on the Chinese herbs part and not on much on the food that you can see in NTUC, kind of like, for example, carrots, pumpkin. It's not really that kind of like nutritional study. We're more into the herbs kind of nutritional study. So next we have 中药技术学, which is how we actually perform acupuncture, the different types, the different types of practice. Like we have 补泻法, and then we have 捻转法, 提插法, the different types of method as to how we will use our acupuncture needle, and also of course cupping, yeah, just different stuff that we will learn. Yeah. So next will be interesting. It is 正常人体解剖学, which is anatomy. Anatomy is really important when you learn medicine, and because you just have to know the body. If not, how are you supposed to actually treat the body if you don't know the body, if you get what I mean? So this is our book. So basically it's all the diagrams, and it shows like the English and Chinese terms of the different organs, the different parts of our body, bones, muscles, nerves, the brain, lungs, and things like that, like the skin. Because we have to learn like how the body works, how the arteries run, how the veins run, how the nerves run especially. So it is all really important for us, and we try our best to really know our anatomy, because when it comes to like dislocation, shoulder dislocation, finger dislocation, we have to know the anatomy well to be able to really like put everything back in place, you know, put the bone back in place. Okay, so now for the more of the Western medicine part of our whole medicine journey would be, I would say it in English because I actually forgot what's the Chinese term. Because when I was studying for these modules, I used mainly English terms to help me memorize them, because I wasn't that good at the terms in Chinese, to be honest. So I learned a lot faster when I read things in English. So we have physiology, we have biochemistry, which is a really, really bad one. I still remember while I was studying for it, I was in a Starbucks, I was studying with my friend, and I was like just tearing, I was crying, sitting down there studying, because I just can't remember like things like the citric acid cycle, like things that you would never use in life. I mean, as far as it concerns what I'm doing in future. So it was really a pretty tedious process for me, but I got over it. I think it was a module in year 2 if I'm not wrong. So next we have microbiology and immunology, which is what we did some lab stuff, and yeah, and we got to see like gram-positive, gram-negative bacteria, and it was quite interesting because we don't really get to do that. Then we have pathology, very interesting too. Pharmacology, very interesting because nowadays patients take drugs as in Western medicine and Chinese herbs together. So we have to know whether the herbs will interact or not to be able to really understand and not harm the patient. That is the utmost importance, like patient safety. So pharmacology, interesting. I love reading on it. And then we have internal and clinical medicine, which is what this book has helped a lot, because for example, for chest, for example cardio stuff, or like pulmonary stuff, lung stuff, it shows you how you can test for it and how you can really understand it, and the different reflex tests. Yeah, exercise and stuff. So this is pretty good for clinical examination. It really goes step by step. So now we are down to the last three. We have emergency medicine, 急救医学, which is, for example, shock, things like that. That you learn it because we have to know how to recognize it, whether it is something serious that they require urgent attention and to send them for treatment. And then preventive medicine is an elective module. I think we learned it in year 1 or 2. I kind of forgot. Yeah, like I really forgot. Like it was a pretty small module. Then the last one that we have is medical physiology, 心理学, 医学心理学. So this is a module where we learn about mental stuff, for example, schizophrenia, depression, and things like that. Things that got to do with our mental well-being. And so that is all for today's video. I hope you kind of like can get a glimpse of, just a brief glimpse, because I didn't really like go into detail as to what we study inside. It's more of like what modules we are taught and what we'll touch on. So I hope this video helped if you're looking to study Chinese medicine in Singapore. You're always welcome, but just remember that it's tough, but it's a fulfilling journey. See you in my next video.